Welcome, everybody. I'm Robin from Western Mass. It is Sunday, March 6th, 2022, a beautiful sunny day here in Western Massachusetts, and this is the Morgellons Call of the Week. So I'm glad to be here as Richard Kuhn's co-host. Richard is the author of How to Get Your Life Back from Morgellons and Other Skin Parasites. He just released the 11th edition of this book, which is an incredible book. It has the diet, which starves them out of your body, in my opinion. It has protocols for cleaning your skin, cleaning your stuff, cleaning your environment, and I feel like Richard is the leading expert on Morgellons and other skin parasites because he keeps learning, he keeps researching, and he keeps being on this call to help us. So I'm really grateful, and at this time I'd like to introduce Richard Kuhn to you guys. So welcome, Richard.
Thank you, Robin. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to always be here every Sunday afternoon. In case you're wondering why I'm wearing a mask, it's not for COVID. I lost 4 teeth on the bottom. My temporaries broke, so I'd rather not look like a vampire right now. So, anyway, the important thing, I was listening to some of the comments before we started the program, and someone said that their life was saved by our program, and I am so grateful. We have saved many lives, and the wonderful thing that I think you'll find is that this is a complete program. It is from A to Z, starting with the most up-to-date information about dealing with Morgellons disease, research that's released. I mean, as Robin said earlier, each of you are my research team. People send me emails with things that they find. I follow them up. If they're pertinent, I add them to the protocol. I add them to the book. And talking about information, that's the other thing. Everything we do here, all of our information, is totally free. We don't charge for a darn thing. The book is free. All you got to do is go to debridingsoap.com and leave your name and your email. You'll be immediately sent a link to access the book. And the diet is free. The diet has 3 stages to it. Stage 1 is very strict. It took me a couple of years to figure this diet out, and I give it away free. Stage 2, you get to eat more extensively. You add in different foods, which really make a difference, and there aren't a lot of foods. I mean, things like walnuts and bananas and green apples, and it's free. I don't charge money for the stage 2, you know, and I have reports online, how to beat Lyme disease. You don't have to. Lyme disease doesn't have to own you anymore. Based from my experience, where Lyme disease almost destroyed my life 12 or so years ago when I was in my early 60s, it's free. The report covers all of the different techniques that are used with Lyme disease, the antibiotics, the salt and vitamin C, the clinic in Europe where you can get your body temperature up to like 107 degrees under medical supervision. Rifing, it covers all the techniques and the nutritional aspects that are important to really get your life back. And oftentimes when you use these, the nutrition, you don't need treatment because if you're nutritionally powerful, and you can see Lyme disease likes toxicity, and one of the things that we do is boost glutathione. And I don't think you can find another expert in the field I mean, I've listened to Dr. Klinghardt. I've listened to the fellow who does the herbs. I forget their name. Horowitz is another person, and none of them mention boosting glutathione. Well, anyway, that's another whole topic in itself. There's also a free report, Win the Battle of the Bite. So all the information is free. We want you to be successful. We do have an online store. This program is not based on you having to purchase items from this online store. You can be in the program and purchase absolutely nothing. In fact, in the book, it provides alternatives that you can go to your pharmacy and get skin creams like amylactin. Neosporin cream has been often used. So this is all free. And it is a working program for the people who are in the program, and it doesn't cost anything to be in the program. All you have to do is put in your name and your email address, and you get the updates and the information. You have access to our blog. There's orientation video on YouTube. You have access to all the videos on YouTube. We cover many, many different subjects. We're here for one reason, and that is each of us have suffered dramatically ourselves. Personally, I've dealt with Lyme disease. It almost destroyed my life. I've had Morgellons. I've had Columbella. I've dealt with skin fungus. I've dealt with mites, M-I-T-E-S, mites. I've dealt with it all, and even hot tub rash. And I've gotten my life back. And Robin has also gone through torture. I mean, there's not anybody, none of our coaches that haven't gone through torture. We know what it's about. So we're here to provide the inspiration and the direction so that each of us, each of you can benefit from our experience. I know what it was like back in the 90s suffering. The doctors didn't know anything, and the doctors still today know very little. You are very lucky if you're dealing with Morgellons to find a doctor that might scratch his head and said, well, I think you got Morgellons, but I don't know what to do about it or what you might do. There are a handful of medical doctors in the country that, and they're listed in Chapter 6, that treat Morgellons disease as Lyme disease, utilizing antibiotics, long-term antibiotics. I had the fortune of going through that treatment myself, over 6 months on antibiotics, and it didn't end the suffering. In fact, the suffering only began after the treatment was over. That's when the real suffering from Lyme disease started for me. So we're here to inspire you, to provide information, and support you in getting your lives back. The subject today came from an email that I received during the week, and this is something that is also a part of this program. Again, no purchases ever required to participate in this program. Jessica writes, thank you, Richard. I have a question for you. In your book where you talk about DE, that's Diatomaceous Earth, helping you so much along with the diet, did you mean drinking it or using spray method and dusting method? Okay, that's a good question because the answer is both. Now, if you are using it, I mean, Robin, you've used Diatomaceous Earth. Do you still use it maybe?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I use it for my cat. I rub it in his fur. I put it in his bed. I will, every now and then I clean something out and get reinfested, and I will sprinkle it in my clothes and my shoes. I make mixtures with essential oils and coconut oil and diatomaceous earth. It's soothing on your skin as long as you don't breathe the dust. I can sprinkle it in corners of rooms. Yeah, I really like it a lot.
Yeah. Mary, do you use it or have you used Diatomaceous Earth?
Oh, yes, I use it and I love it. I mix it in with my clothes and lace my clothes with it. I also add some baking soda to it It just seems to kill a couple more stages when it's both the DE and the baking soda. I use it every day. I have feral cats outside. I feed it to them and their food. Yeah, I love it.
Great, thank you. Now, it's important to note there are two grades of diatomaceous earth. Food grade, which means you can literally consume it, and there's also the non-food grade, which can be used with animals outside or inside, but not ingested. So if we're going to use it, it's literally so inexpensive. So I always use the food grade, and I used it environmentally as well as consuming it. My trek began, I guess, in researching. We all research, and we go to the internet, and we constantly looking for information and learning. And I learned way back, and it's shared in the book, about ladybugs consuming organisms like mites and columbella and things like that. So I ran off and I bought, I don't know how many hundreds of ladybugs and released them in the house. And, you know, I wasn't thinking, because I think at the same time I was using diatomaceous earth. So within a few days, I didn't find one ladybug. They were gone. So, you know, I may have defeated myself with a diatomaceous earth. In fact, it's the first thing that it's inexpensive, and it's the most underused part of getting your life back that anybody can imagine. So I figured in my mind that if these things, I didn't know if there were, well, I knew there were some things flying around. I could see them now and then. I didn't have the experience that some people report where they just see a haze of them all, so many of them in the atmosphere. But I knew it was something like the red mite, I surmised, that one time I actually saw come from my clothing when I opened up my coat. How'd that guy get in there? So I figured that if I spread it around any place they land, it's going to be the end of them. So I dusted everything. I had the dustiest house around. I had the furniture dusted. I dusted the carpet and everything with diatomaceous earth. And Robin noted earlier, you don't want to be breathing this stuff because, I mean, there's nothing that's going to cleanse your lungs. You know, you get it in your lungs, and there's nothing that you're going to do to get it out. It's going to be in there, caked in there. So you want to wear a mask if you're going to be dusting it. If you go to the company, diatomaceousearth.com, they will also show you, and if you go to our blog, BethMorgellonsCure.com, we explain how you can distribute it environmentally without dusting it. And that is, you take a few tablespoons of it, 3 or 4, and use a funnel and put it into a spray bottle. You know, the type you buy at the dollar store for $1. Now they're $1.25 now. The dollar store is gone to $1.25 stores. So at least that's the one I saw locally. So you put a few tablespoons in a funnel, let it go into the spray bottle. You add water in, not all the way to the top, because you want to be able to shake it up. And you shake it up vigorously, put on the spray cap, and then you can spray, wet spray. This works well for bed bugs as well. I mean, gosh, nothing faster. If you have a 4-poster bed, you get empty bottoms of empty yogurt cans, containers. You put some diatomaceous earth on the bottom. You put the post of the bed in there, and gosh, any bed bug that wants to come from the floor, climb up the post, has got to go through that moat, and they're going to be destroyed. I mean, and you can spray the wall. You can have this wet spray, and you can spray the wall, because they can also climb up a wall and onto the ceiling and drop onto you from above. You can spray lightly, around electrical sockets. I mean, don't go spraying right into the electrical socket, but they hide in there, so you want to spray around where they come out. So when you spray, you want to be careful because you're not going to see the white. When you dust it, you can see the white, but it's wet, so you're not going to see it until it dries. So you don't want to spray 4 or 5 times thinking, well, nothing's happening, I don't see any white, because when it dries, it's going to be caked on there. So you just do a light spray everywhere, and you have diatomaceous earth distributed, protecting your surroundings. You can do your carpets, you can put it in your car, you can put it anywhere, so that the idea about diatomaceous earth is that when organisms contact it, it shreds them. It's diatomaceous earth to these organisms or like shards of glass. It's like you lying on a bed of shards of glass. It would shred you. So that's how it affects these organisms. Now, internally, again, only food-grade diatomaceous earth. And there's a update done way back in July 26th of 2020 on our blog post that I'm going to read from that. It's start with 1 teaspoon mixed in 8 ounces of water. Drink this either 1 hour before a meal or 2 hours after a meal. The goal is to have an empty stomach. Repeat this every day for 10 days. And then increase your amount of diatomaceous earth slowly up to 2 teaspoons if you like. Once you hit 10 days, take a break for 7 days. This is being recorded, so if you're not real fast taking notes or don't have a pencil and paper handy, it's going to be on YouTube by the end of the week. You can also go in the blog and look it up. Just search back to, what did I say, July 26th, and the blog is at bestmorgellonscure.com, BEST morgellonscure.com. So back to the, so you take a break for 7 days, then repeat again for 10 days. You may see some interesting stools being passed, just a warning. So if you see a change in stool, well, it's the diatomaceous earth starting to do some work. So you do that. Now, you can increase more from there if you desire. Here's some other steps here. Take 1 teaspoon of food-grade diatomaceous earth with water once a day. I don't see why you can't do it with coffee. You know, it's basically tasteless anyway, so, but you could put it in your coffee. I take my collagen that way. You know, we have in the store some super collagen, 5 types of collagen, and I add that in my coffee and stir it up and drink it once a day to feed my skin from inside out.
Richard, can I interrupt for 1 second?
Sure.
I just want to add, so the food grade diet, don't ingest anything if it's not food grade, number 1. But the cleanse with diatomaceous earth that I learned about is very similar to what you said, except it's you start with a teaspoon of food grade diatomaceous earth and a teaspoon of baking soda on an empty stomach, but you do it twice a day, and over 10 days you increase to a full tablespoon, which is 3 teaspoons, and then you stop, and you can get cramping and some stomach pain, but it will be a very effective cleanse. And then you wait at least a week. You may not ever need to do it again, seriously.
Well, the reference to baking soda is also part of my protocol. So,
right.
Covering the aspect of diatomaceous earth, if you complete the questionnaire and send it in to me, and you're dealing with Morgellons, taking baking soda is also something that you would do to basically alkalize your system, or drinking. In fact, if we look at what they claim to be the antidote for Morgellons, the antidote for Morgellons is simply boron, increasing boron levels up to about 30 milligrams a day, and alkalizing your system. they suggest using apple cider vinegar, but since we know that basically 90% of us have both Morgellons and Columbella, apple cider vinegar is okay if you're only dealing with Morgellons, but if you're also dealing with springtails, Columbella, that apple cider vinegar is going to feed them. So the alternative to the protocol is to take a teaspoon a day, and you can mix it in with your diatomaceous earth. But you don't want to go up to 2 teaspoons a day at a time with baking soda. You want to keep it up because it can raise blood pressure. So you want to watch that as a possibility too. So you can take, now step 2, over the next few weeks, slowly raise your DE dosage from 1 teaspoon to 2 teaspoons, taking 1 in the morning and 1 teaspoon at night. We recommend taking up to a tablespoon per day. This is from the diatomaceousearth.com. Be sure you drink plenty of water throughout the day to keep your system hydrated. This is important. Hydration is important because you can get all these good nutrients into your body, but if you're not hydrated, you're not going to get the utilization of the nutrients. They need water. So now here in this lady's book, Going Green Using Diatomaceous Earth, Chewy Rose suggests taking DE 10 days on and 10 days off for 90 days. Through many, people have found different strategies that work for them. Some take it daily for a few weeks, others for years at a time. Experiment and see what's right for you. So in other words, it's important for you to really utilize it as a tool and see what works best for you and what level. Now, the other thing about diatomaceous earth that is important is that it is typically basically for dealing with intestinal parasites, to chew them up, to clean your body of intestinal parasites. That's its purpose. It is part of my protocol for intestinal parasites. If you look in the blog post, you'll find there's a blog post. There's a couple of chiropractors that were interviewed, and when they talk about intestinal parasites, their statement is, people say, well, how do I know if I have intestinal parasites? Their answer is, if you've got a pulse, if you've got a pulse, you've got intestinal parasites. They're just part of life, unless you've been, working on cleaning them out with some techniques that we suggest. So in the basic protocol for dealing with intestinal parasites, we use consuming our Nature's Gift mouthwash. It's like taking carbon, the carbon that you take for flatulence and stuff like that. Well, instead of solid form, this is liquid form carbon. We also, the second thing is the diatomaceous earth, and the third aspect is to look into using fenbenzidol, Fenben. So putting those 3 things together for intestinal parasites, as opposed to people who use wormwood and black walnut hull. Now, there is nothing wrong with wormwood or black walnut hull, except for the fact that if you're also dealing with Columbella, springtails, aka snow fleas, well, they feed those organisms. And I sense that about 90% of us are dealing with both organisms. So we don't recommend going the route of wormwood and black walnut hull, even though it can work with people who are not impacted by these organisms very well. They just don't work for us. The other aspect of the diatomaceous earth is that it does get into your bloodstream, as they claim on diatomaceousearth.com. So it also helps clean up your bloodstream. Now, if you ever heard of a fellow, Dr. What was his name in California? He's no longer in practice, but he claimed that silica is part of Morgellons disease. Well, I think he was off his rocker then, and if he were still in practice, he'd be off his rocker now. There's no proof, no research that says Morgellons is based on silica or uses silica in its reproduction cycle. Absolutely none. Whereas it does use up organic sulfur and it does use up iron, which are part of also our protocol, replenishing them. That was Carju, Dr. Carju. Okay. So that's our take on diatomaceous earth. It's the most underused, I believe, the most underused and the least expensive thing that you can get. And we have it in our store, 2-pound bags. You can get, I think you can go to Tractor Supply and buy a 25-pound bag of food-grade diatomaceous earth if you want, very inexpensively. So, you have anything to add, Robin?
No, I think you covered it. You can
Great.
get diatomaceous earth also at Home Depot, on Amazon, at your store. Just make sure you always get food grade.
Right, food grade.
You can sprinkle
Mary,
it in your pet's food also.
you have anything to add, Mary?
Well, I went to Tractor Supply and got a 25-pound bag and brought it home, and this was like at the height of the pandemic this year. And I ate it, I drank it, and I sprinkled it in the house. It worked fabulous. And eventually I ran out, and just recently I went back and got another bag, but it was a different brand. And the stuff that I got the first time was called Red Earth Diatomaceous Earth, and it was actually brown, and the stuff that I have now is white and powdery. But both of them were food grade.
Right.
And if you can get the Red Earth, it's not. I don't think that it's so many particles in the air. It's a little bit heavier. So
Well,
I like the powdery better, actually.
Do
yeah.
you?
So
Yeah, I do.
it could vary in color and texture, I guess, is what Mary's saying. The food grade can. We only carry in our store 2-pound bags from diatomaceousearth.com. You can buy direct from them, or we have it as a convenience. So if you're placing an order rather than having to order, that's the purpose of our stores, to try to have everything that anybody wants to deal with mites and Morgellons and Columbella at one place, so you don't have to order from 10 different places to get your supplies. You can get it from Chris, who is a fantastic person in working with our customers.